Hello everyone and welcome to my podcast. Tune in to hear me speak on some very hot topics relating to love, life, relationships, situationships and all that jazz. Sit back, grab a tea or coffee, put your phone down and enjoy the show. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 3 of the Amore Life Lounge. I hope wherever you are in the world you're all doing well, you're safe, all that good stuff. So I thought I'd jump on today very quickly. I'm not going to keep you for too long, so don't worry, you don't have to hear my draining ass voice for too long today. First and foremost, let me update you on our current situation across the UK, just in case any tuning in are sort of abroad or wherever you are. We are currently in that transitional stage of lockdown, so it sounds like things are starting to go back to normal, which is good. But what I'm really irritated about, guys, is the fact the gyms are not open. I don't care. I'm not gonna worry about what people say, but I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for this. But it's selfish, yeah, because I want to go back to the gym. Nevertheless, Boris Johnson has turned round and said by the 15th of June. Boris Johnson's our MP. Prime Minister, sorry. MP. I'm there talking like I know about politics, evidently not. Boris Johnson has turned round and said by the 15th of June, we should expect to see non-essential retail chains reopening. Okay, that's great, because they can obviously implement social distancing and all that stuff. My argument is, the same principles that apply to spreading corona in a retail store apply to the gym. I get it, people sweat a lot more in the gym and, there's a greater risk posed, all that sort of stuff. But you can never predict when somebody's going to be sweating, when somebody's going to have not washed their hands. Do you know what I mean? So it's I don't understand how something that's considered non-essential has been prioritised over something that, in my view, is essential, because some people use the gym for therapy, do you know what I mean? Stress relief. It promotes a positive and strong physical and mental well-being. So I just don't get why that's not, okay, rant over guys, I'm not going to keep going on. And a lot of people are coming back going, yeah, but do you know what, the gym, I'm open the gym, so I'm hoping by the 15th of June, the gyms will have reopened. I get it. I'm all for not stopping, but slowing down on certain of our procedures to ensure that we don't continue to spread coronavirus. I get that, but at the same time, if we're slowly starting to go back to normal, I can't see why the gym's not going to reopen, and I can't see why the gym's not priority based on all the stats around people that are self-harming, gaining weight, domestic violence. Come on. Anywho, moving on. I'm going to speak to you today, guys, about a topic that I am literally... Okay, you are probably going to say, do you know what? You're behind with the times. You need to catch up. And I probably do, because social media for me is a brand new thing. Don't get me wrong, I have used social media. However, I've limited my social media use strictly to Facebook. So I came on Facebook around 2013, 2014, at which point I was a lot younger. But obviously my perception was different, all that sort of stuff. So I came on social media then. I was quite active, posting just rubbish, absolute rubbish. So apologies to anybody that's tuning in now that was a Facebook friend of mine 10 years ago, because they're probably thinking, oh my god, this girl, something wrong with her. However, we change, we grow. I'm not that person anymore, so please don't judge me based on that. Anyway, moving forward. So yeah, I was a completely different person then. So I was a lot more active. As time passed, I stopped using. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit of a lurker. Well, not a bit, I was a lurker. I basically looked on people's profiles and seen what everybody else was doing, but very rarely posted any pictures, posted any posts, all that stuff. But obviously, since introducing my podcast, I'm having to use social media. So I've now moved to the famous Instagram platform, and I'm okay, let's see how this Instagram thing goes. Bearing in mind, it is kind of strictly business, but at the same time, okay, I'm going to diverge slightly here, guys. I'm just giving you my thoughts. But at the same time, I was what do I do on my Instagram? Because again, it's all new. What do I put on there? I am trying to sell my podcast. I am trying to, not sell, well, yeah, kind of sell. I am trying to promote and sell my podcast. But at the same time, you need to see a face behind the podcast. So I am sort of trying to put pictures of myself, but at the same time, I don't want it to be very me. So I was kind of like, what do I do? Like, how's my focus? I need to get a bit of a brand going and, you know, a nice little image on my Instagram, because at the minute I'm a little bit lost, but we'll get there eventually. It's a work in progress. You guys will see me on my journey. But yeah, what was I saying? What was the point I was getting to? So yeah, obviously I started Instagram and I was like, it's only going to be around, obviously, like business connections, you guys interacting with me. It's purely going to be around my podcast. Don't have to worry about obviously seeing certain material because I'm only going to follow certain people, right? Wasn't I wrong? So I went onto Instagram. I actually didn't realise there was a little, it's like a little magnifying, so it's a little search button on Instagram. And I don't know where Instagram kind of what algorithms they use, but basically they just put all these pictures, don't they, on that home page, so you get to see all these pictures. So I'm like, okay, so I'm searching for somebody in particular. I'm seeing all these pictures, all these girls. So as you do as a female, you start scrolling through, like, oh, who's that? Who's she? And I didn't want to get caught too much in it, guys. But I'm not gonna lie, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I don't know why I'm saying flabbergasted, like that's my terminology that I use on an everyday basis, but you know, the mic's on, so you go into a bit of a persona. But yeah, I was really shocked because I didn't realise how bad it was in terms of the material. I'm going to sound like a right old woman. Like, I am going to sound so old, but I couldn't believe how bad some girls were representing themselves on social media. Like, I show skin, don't get me wrong. A lot of my pictures are a little bit of skin showing, whether it's a bit of leg or a little bit of belly or a little bit of boob. Like, I'm all for that, do you know what I mean? But there's a limit. Remember that old school saying of you show your boobs but you don't show your legs, and or you show your legs but not your boobs, or one or the other? I still apply that principle when I'm getting dressed. Evidently not on Instagram, because girls are just naked. You know, there's actually girls in pants, in thongs, with their arse out. And I was speaking to this guy and he said, you know, back in the day, those sort of pictures, you know, like a luxury, like to be able to get that kind of footage. But the point that I'm trying to make, and in all seriousness, the whole concept of social media and mental health has to be acknowledged. It has some sort of attention needs to be drawn to it, because I'm at a certain age now where my perception is obviously changed. Do you know what I mean? I've got a greater understanding of who I am, I'd like to think. I've got a lot better control over my emotions and how I respond to situations. So we've all got that feeling sometimes of, oh my God, she looks amazing. Oh my God, that person looks great. Do you know what I mean? Because all this skin, all this exposure is starting to, not starting, but it started to make me compare myself a lot more, just due to the fact you could see more. Whereas back in the day, in a standard picture, you'd see only a limited amount. Do you know what I mean? So you're less likely to make such stringent comparisons between you and somebody else based on a picture. But with everything being out, you are comparing, well, I personally was comparing all my body parts and stuff, and I got into a bit of a trap, and I was like, no. Backstep, Ruth. Like, reevaluate what you're thinking, reevaluate what you're doing. You're not on Instagram for that. Pull yourself out of that mindset. That person looks amazing, but don't fall into that insecure mindset, because I could feel myself gradually falling into it. And I was like, wow, this is quite difficult. And again, I'm a lot older. I'm not going to say my age, I'm a lot older. So I can obviously manage those emotions a lot better. However, you've got people on social media a lot younger that can't manage those emotions the same way maybe that I can manage them. And what then happens? You can either go two ways. You can get to the self-obsessed point where you're so concerned over yourself, you're making unfair comparisons, you know, analysing every part of your body, going on strict and quite unhealthy diets and things of that sort, and causing your mental health to deteriorate. Or you could go on the other side of feeling as though that behaviour is the right behaviour to display because that's what's getting the attention, that's what's getting the applaud on social media. Because think about it, how does it probably initially start? People probably don't go on social media and their first picture they upload is their arse out. They may go on, upload a picture, get quite a lot of credibility for the picture, keeps like uploading similar sort of pictures, and then maybe the morale changes around that picture. So people then feel like they have to be a little bit more extreme and a little bit more, oh, what am I going to do to get the likes? What am I going to do to get the likes? Then what happens? You reveal more skin. With that comes more likes. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. It does. More likes, more skin. So that then happens, and then by the time you know it, you're naked on Instagram, and you've got this generation now that they're very clued on, they're very smart. I know I spoke about it very briefly in my previous podcast, so episode 2, sorry, so go and tune in if you haven't. It's all around self-love, self-acceptance, all that stuff. So yeah, what happens? They then fall into that trap of feeling as though that's the right behaviour to display because it's all over social media. And like I said, back in the day, things were a lot different. There was a lot more of a stigma around what you do and how you represent yourself, because people were so consumed with how I'm going to be perceived by people around me, whether that's family, whether that's friends. I don't want to inherit the title of being a quote unquote a loose girl. A lot of people were very cautious of what they posted. Even if they wanted to post those sort of pictures, they probably would be a lot more reluctant to do it. Although that's not healthy, because at the same time you're still operating off of a level of, oh, I've got to do this to please others. But on the same breath, it kept a lot of people grounded around behaviour, and maybe a lot of it was secretive, opposed to it being published on a platform that has millions and millions of users daily. So it may have gone from you doing that in the personal privacy of your own home to you then going onto a platform and doing it for everybody to see. That's why they call them influencers, because you've got an influential standpoint within the community. So I believe if you've got such a strong level of influence over the people that are on your page, you need to be extremely mindful of what you post. And I'm not saying you've got to be a completely different person and change who you are, but if you know that the people that are likely to view your page are going to be of a certain demographic, age group, all that sort of stuff, surely you'd have a little bit more scrutiny around your content. If you had a private profile, I've seen one and it just, I don't know what it's called. I can't remember what it's called. It's gone off the back of my head. There's no difference to the girls in the strip club. There's none. And again, years ago, there was a stigma around if you wanted to strip. People would rip into you, particularly within the Midlands where I live. You get ripped into, oh my God, oh, that girl's a stripper. Like, I found out she does this for money. Now, you're a stripper. Like, you are a stripper. I'm not judging, because each their own. Whatever you do is your business. I'm just going back to the implications this is having on the people's lives around you and the effects it's then having on our community. And it is promoting that promiscuity and people feeling like, yeah, that's okay. And then what kind of attention you then going to attract off the back of that? It's not going to be positive. And if you're not clued on to the mind of a man, and we have to say women aren't, you might not realise that, you know what, there is an association between my pictures and how probably a man's going to treat me, or how a man's going to approach me, or what kind of man am I going to attract. So I think people really need to think about it. But putting that all aside, 30 minutes in, guys, don't want to speak to you for too long. But putting all that aside, there's going to be a comparison type complex, and we all do it. It's all natural. It's just how you handle those emotions and how you deal with that kind of that feeling inside when you are at that point of, whether that's insecurity, jealousy, envy, bad mind, whatever term you use it. But these are the things that are contributing, and I know it sounds extreme, to the deterioration of the youth, and they're contributing quite significantly, because it's setting a standard and a foundation for the way these children decide to live their life. And as I mentioned on my previous podcast, how you decide to live your life, whether that's a long-term intention or whether that's just a split moment choice, those decisions you make are then going to impact how your life unravels, basically. You know, those decisions that you make sometimes are unchangeable and you can't go back on them. You can make decisions in life. I've mentioned it in my previous podcast, and I don't want to keep mentioning it, but you can open the door, and I love my analogies. You can open the door, and that door you open, you'll never be able to return through that door the same person based on the decisions that you've made. So it's having such an impact. So if we're starting a foundation which is it's ruined, if the foundation is ruined, how are you supposed to grow? How are you supposed to flourish? Yeah, it's possible. I felt like my initial foundation was great growing up, but as it unravelled, it was quite tarnished, I'm not going to lie. But I was still able to grow and gravitate and flourish and shine into the person I am today. However, that took a lot of work, and I'll be honest, that the grace of God alone that actually brought me through and enabled me to get to a point that I'm not ruined at this stage, because there's a lot of people that could have made similar sort of decisions to what I made and completely ruined their life. They could be living a completely different path now. So it's just something that people need to think about. And these sort of issues, so back to the whole, the whole issue around mental health, these sort of issues are so significant. And I'm not too sure if the whole mental health thing is, I suppose the stigma's changed around mental health now. Back in the day, no one wanted to admit up to having poor mental health because you felt as though you were judged more. Whereas now it seems to be a little bit of a fad around, oh, I've got mental health, oh, I've got anxiety, oh, I've got depression. People feel quite open having these conversations, but the issues are still there. The issues still remain. And we've got kids committing suicide. We've got kids putting themselves through some situations in terms of surgery that risks their own health and well-being off the back of trying to create this false reality. You've got young girls giving into the sexual advancement of boys and grown-ass men, you know what I mean, just to somehow feel accepted because maybe their look wasn't the in thing, or maybe their image wasn't the in thing on social media, typically didn't get much attention, suffered from extreme insecurity. So when you've got this nasty ass, grown ass, dirty ass man come and approach them with their sexual advances and their nastiness, these girls are a lot more inclined to fall for it because the fact they just want that attention, and they're like, oh, finally somebody actually likes me, so they're falling for it. So it's all, I suppose, related back to self-love and feeling confident in yourself. And it's like, how are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to instill that in your children? I know people say you've got to go back to the home, and you're 100% right. You can't rely on social media. You can't rely on the schools to educate your child. It does go back to the home. But social media is such a prominent part of our community and society. It's like you're fighting a losing battle unless you say, look, I'm not allowing my children or whatever to be on social media. That could be something. You could say, well, I'm not allowing them on social media. What then makes you think they're then not using it without you knowing? So it's like, what do you do? And it's scary. And luckily enough, I've not got children, so not at the minute anyway. So that's kind of a bit of a relief for me, so I don't have to worry so much. But I have got a younger sister, and I worry so much, particularly being a female, the path she can take, the decisions she can make, all that sort of stuff. And I'm trying to have as much of an input into her life as I possibly can to try and push her in the right direction. Obviously right now in her eyes, I'm not the best person, because it's just, I'm not agreeing and just going along with that sort of behaviour, but that's a completely different story. Yeah, I'm just like, what do we do? Do we ban them? But then you ban them, you put too much restrictions and it backfires. I mean, I remember growing up where I went to an all-girls school, and our school was very mixed in terms of ethnicities. Particularly within the Asian community, it's a known thing that it's very strict. Parents are very strict, so they won't allow certain behaviours. They're on their kids' back, basically, when it comes to certain things. And I respect that to a degree, but I don't think that older generation realise that you can instill that into your child, but sometimes they can just rebel and go completely in the opposite direction. Do you know what I mean? Just due to the fact you've enforced a lifestyle on them that hasn't necessarily been their choice. So they rebel against that even more because it's like, well, you told me I can't do it. So you're like, I really want to do it because I've been told that I can't for how many years. So sometimes they go off the bend. I used to see girls that were from a particular community that had very strict parents, but in their own time, and they were doing a load of stuff in the background to fulfill some sort of desire because they felt like they couldn't do it. But the point I'm trying to make is, what do we do, and how are we gonna, as a community, and I'm not referring strictly to my community in terms of the Afro-Caribbean community, I'm referring to us as a community as a whole. What are we gonna do to save our children, to save our offspring from this very warped social media society that we live in? Like, I'm all for social media, because at the end of the day, this is a social media platform. You can create some amazing things off the back of it, connect with people you'd never connect with But as mentioned, if you start getting that following, you've got to be very mindful of some of the stuff you put out there. And I'm not saying these girls are evil people. I'm not sitting there and bashing them and saying, you're disgusting, I'm not, because I'm that sort of person. You do what you're doing, you live your life. And I don't think some people are thinking about it to the extent that I'm thinking about it. They might just think, oh, I'm putting a picture out, like, so what? I'm just doing me, I look good. But they're not thinking about these things, and we don't. Like, when I was posting my rubbish on social media when I was younger, I wasn't thinking about the impacts that may have had on some of the people around me. I was just thinking about me. And it's a really easy mentality to adopt. Yeah, very easy mentality to adopt. But I was having a very similar sort of conversation with somebody quite close to me, and it sort of came to the whole concept of, okay, mental health. We're all aware of mental health and how it's defined. But we then sort of moved slowly on to a different kind of principle around mental health. And yeah, poor mental health can relate purely to anxiety, depression, bipolar, psychosis, whatever you want to name it, schizophrenia, whatever you want to name it. But in terms of how warped our societal mindset is at the minute, could that potentially be considered poor mental health? Because we speak about insecurity, we speak about oppression, suppression, we speak about this pressure to comply to a certain beauty standard. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't do it. By looking at my image, how I carry myself, how I wear my hair, I am complying to a certain standard, quote unquote, guys, standard. That, of course, is going to have its impacts on the way our mind works, how we perceive things, how we perceive ourselves, how beautiful we think we are or not so attractive we think we are, based on that standard that is being enforced into the social media world, enforced into me, not necessarily social media, but enforced into the media, which then rolls out into social media, and it then rolls to the communities and things of that sort. So we've got this standard, we've got this perception, so our mental health is tarnished. So sometimes it's not great to look at mental health purely around a diagnosis by a doctor. This is what poor mental health is. In some way, shape or form, if you haven't experienced a mental health condition, you might be suffering from poor mental health off the back of societal pressure. It's like, I'll give an example of anorexia, for instance. What is the definition of anorexia? Somebody who considers themselves fat due to a somewhat distorted perspective of reality. Okay, so they think they're overweight, and you've probably seen it yourself, or some of you might sadly have experienced it yourself, but you may look in the mirror and not actually see your true beauty and your true size because of this disease, right? The same theory applies to somebody that considers themselves less favourable due to their image not being considered a value within, whether that's social media, whether that's the media, etc. And you could be the most beautiful person in the world. You see these models, right? And you've got these models and they've got extremely dark skin and they're absolutely stunning, okay? In certain modelling worlds, that's amazing. But in certain parts of society, that may be considered not the in thing, But that person is absolutely beautiful. But let's not use modelling as an example in this situation, because models are considered the pinnacle of beauty. They're at the pinnacle of beauty, aren't they? So let's just use an average girl from London. Her looks may assimilate a model. So she may be of a beautiful darker complexion, but due to the society we live in and due to the social media pressures and I suppose the attention and gratification around a certain look, she may then feel as though her look isn't as pretty, suffer from an insecurity or a major insecurity, and actually view herself as ugly, okay, and think I'm nowhere near. I've seen videos of young black girls turn around and say I'm ugly, and you wonder where this comes from, and it does stem from social media. I appreciate the emphasis that's been put on mental health, whether that's depression, anxiety, psychosis, all that stuff, because it's a big thing right now, and by no means am I undermining it. I'm definitely going to do a separate podcast around mental health. However, sometimes people fail to realise that mental health can come in a varied shape or size. It's not necessarily related purely to anxiety and depression. You've got people that feel so low in themselves and they perceive their image as so insuperior that they look at themselves as a completely different person, and it's very similar to the condition of anorexia. And I just don't understand why this very similar concept holds very little substance to some people. But you know, it is what it is, and I think. And although, yes, it is a form of insecurity, I feel like it goes a lot deeper than insecurity and confidence. And of course, that can then result in maybe a clinical diagnosis of depression or anxiety or whatever the situation may be. And it may fall into some kind of, again, I'm not a medical expert, so I couldn't say. There might be things out there that's diagnosed around this sort of topic, but yeah, I just feel like that it's such a deep thing, and I know I've related it quite closely to race. Race holds a very big part of this due to I suppose the ongoing conditioning and stuff like that, but I feel like it can apply to various different areas, whether that's weight, because weight fluctuates in terms of what's considered beautiful within society. Weight-wise, back in the day, it used to be thick, thin models, that was the in thing, then the weight thing came in, and curves are now an in thing, so weight's another thing, and it's a standard that's which is set and sort of orchestrated by the people within the media to sort of display this as what you need to aspire to be, or what you need to aspire to look like. So it can apply to various different areas, but I thought I'd use race because race is a big one. I thought I'd use race as an example, but I'm going to wrap it up, guys. But what I did want to do, because I know I've mentioned in my previous podcast that I'm all for action, and by no means do I expect my podcast to be, okay, you're doing a podcast so you're changing the world. No, obviously I want to bring it to the forefront of everyone's mind so we can be quite self-critical, and not only you but myself can be aware of how I'm displaying myself when it comes to my children when I have them and my siblings, and you know what impact my image is having on the people around me. But I want to bring it to the forefront of everyone's mind so we can make a conscious effort to work to try and tackle this issue. And you know, it doesn't happen overnight, it's not an overnight cure, but if there's anything we can do. But what I wanted to do was just get some ideas from everybody. So write to me, let me know what your thoughts are, let me know things that we can do, you know, smart steps and smart goals and all that sort of stuff, things that we can do, things that we can all practically put in play to really make a change. Reach out to me on Instagram, guys. If I get a lot of feedback, what I'll do a podcast as a bolt on to this podcast. These are the things that we can try and implement, because I'm all about, okay, we're talking, but what are we going to do? You know, you see it all the time. You see people making very broad statements around this topic, that topic, and there's memes relating to it, and there's videos, and there's posts on Instagram, and there's podcasts, and there's YouTube channels. But what is actually being done to drive it? What's being done? So get at me, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think we can do, and I will put together a podcast that sort of substantiates all the findings from you guys and what we can all put in place, and or at least work to put into place in our own life. So anyway, I'm leaving you. I hope you all have an amazing day, night, evening, weekend, afternoon, summer, winter, whatever the situation is where you are. Enjoy life, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please come and join me over on Instagram at the Amore Life Lounge. Remember, wherever you are in the world, take great care of yourself, love yourself, and stay productive. Bye.